Hey, Meg, it's Lynn. You there?
Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Meg. How's Boston? Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Boston's great. We actually have some nice weather this week, which is refreshing. So.
Why is it?
How are you?
It was cooler. What does it mean?
Oh,
it was cooler than normal.
Well, it's not a very strange winter.
Your phone's going out. You there?
Volatile weather. Yes.
Your phone's going in and out or something.
Is it?
Are you there?
Yes. I'm here.
Okay. Did you pick up your phone or are you on speaker?
I am just holding my phone up to my face.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know what was happening. So anyway, something, these cell phones, something weird was happening. But anyways, okay, cool. Thank you so much for your yes. I'm so glad that I found you. I'm grateful that you came on to speak today for our alum and share, your experience, strength, and hope and stuff. So whenever you're ready, just go for it. And there's a bunch of static happening on this end. I don't know if you can hear it on your end. Can you?
I can hear a little bit, but it's nothing terrible.
Okay, cool. So just go for it.
Okay,
ladies
great.
and gentlemen, this is Meg. You're welcome.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Meg McCabe. First thing I want to say is thank you for having me on your call today. Big thanks to Lynn for putting all of this together. I am 26 years old. Just to give you a background on myself, I'm 26 years old. I am a health educator and researcher at When I'm not doing that, I am a writer, an advocate, and life coach helping men and women improve their relationships with food, eating, and their bodies. So that's kind of my side hustle at the moment. I write
Hey, Meg.
a blog called Baby Got Back. That is a play on words. It's not about the song. It's more about the idea of resilience and getting back to normal and recovering from difficult times, specifically.
Hey, Meg, this is Lynn. Can you hear me? Sorry to interrupt. You there? Meg?
Yeah?
Oh, okay. Your word, like every other word, is getting cut off. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to stop the call. Is anyone else on the call? I'm going to stop the call and then stop the recording because I don't know what happened, but as soon as you started speaking, Meg, your every other word is being cut out.
Okay, maybe. Call again then. Do you want to cut it off and just start over?
Yeah, totally. I'm going to call. Let's hang up and then just call back in. If someone else just came on the line, just hang up and call back in. We're having some connection problems. Thank you. Bye. Hey, Meg, it's Lynn. You there?
Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Meg. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so grateful, so grateful. Hey, everybody. I don't know if anyone's on the line, but we'll break for some questions or comments after Meg shares with us. So, Meg, I just want you to go for it, and we'll talk when you're done.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Start. All right. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Meg McCabe. I am 26 years old, and I am a health educator and researcher at Boston Children's Hospital based out of the Trauma Center. And when I'm not doing that, I am also a writer, an advocate, and life coach helping men and women improve their relationships with food, eating, and their bodies. So Lynn found me because I actually write for a blog. It's my own personal blog called Baby Baby Got Back, and it's a resilience and recovery blog where I talk about my own story and my personal struggles with food and eating, and also just different coaching articles in general. So just to give you a little bit of a background on me, I suffered from anorexia and bulimia from between the ages of about 15 to 21. So I've been recovered for about 5 years now. And in my intro that I think Lynn sent out to the group, I am actually pretty thankful for that experience, even though I think a lot of people going through that struggle right now might want to roll their eyes when they hear that. Deep down, I do believe that it was a fast path to my self-discovery, to strength I didn't know I had, resiliency, and personal growth at a very young age. So it's really helped shape me into who I am today. So today I wanted to share my story and talk about how my relationship with food has evolved over time, because I like to compare food to a relationship. Everyone has different relationships with food, which is why recovery is so different for everybody. My journey started in high school, and that was back in the mid-2000s when America's Next Top Model was the cool show to watch. So that was a reality show with Tyra Banks, and I was really into this show. I loved watching it, and I'm about 6 feet tall and generally like athletic, slender build. So everyone was telling me in high school, you should be on this show, you should be a model. And I think that kind of started it all, because, you know, when you're 15, you think, oh, like, that sounds like the coolest option in life. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? Who wouldn't want to be in the fashion industry? It's so glamorous. It's so exciting. So slowly, with that idea in my head, I became really almost obsessed with wanting to achieve that like model body so I could get a modeling contract. So I slowly started limiting my intake with food. I was constantly weighing myself and measuring myself, trying to compare myself to those runway measurements. Of course, it became obsessive, and I was always preoccupied with food. I was counting calories. I was connecting what I ate with guilt. Unfortunately, I also I have a twin sister, and so she noticed what I was doing and also started to take on the habits of anorexia during that time. So it was a very difficult period of my life and very stressful. I ended up not getting my period for almost the entire 4 years of high school, but I constantly was striving to get that like model look, which is, as we all know, not a very realistic expectation for anybody. By the time I was 17, I signed with an agency in New York, and I think right around that time was when the bulimia really started. It was an insidious build-up to this bulimia, but it was all very much fueled by guilt, and pretty much everything I ate just ended up out of my body. It was not a good experience at all, and I was secretive about it. I did not talk about it with my sister or my friends or my family. And so when I graduated, I moved to New York City to become a model full time. So I was seeing this dream that I had been obsessed with and excited about and really super focused on. I actually say that modeling was my relationship. I actually didn't date at all in high school because I was so focused on food and this dream of mine. So I moved to New York to model full-time, and I think while I was living there, I would have maybe one yogurt, some sugar-free Jell-O, and Diet Coke, and I would do lots of walking around the city, and that was my intake for the day. Of course, I also was told by my agency not to work out, which is something you wouldn't expect, but because I have a naturally athletic build, they didn't want me to have muscle mass. So I was just shriveling away, trying to be that unrealistic thinness that you see on runways. And so I did put a lot of pressure on myself during that time because I was preparing for my first fashion week. So while all of my friends were going to their first year of college, I was living in a model apartment, working to build this career. And because I was so young, I didn't really have a perspective of the long term. I thought, if I don't do well in this fashion week, my career is over. It's never going to happen for me. So that really put a lot of pressure on my eating and my relationship with food as well. So my first fashion week rolled around, and before they sent me out to casting, they actually wanted me to go get some sort of facial, which sounded like a really good idea. So they sent me to this facialist who essentially something went wrong, and they ended up burning my skin and bruising my face. So I looked like I had been almost attacked. There was no way I could even participate in Fashion Week with that look. And being the little, the young girl that I was, this felt like the end of the world. And while I thought I had my eating disorder under control in the worst way possible, the bulimia just spiraled, and it got worse and worse, and I started, what used to be kind of just, throwing up after regular meals, it became binging and purging. So I remember being in the model apartment, opening up the cabinet of food and just blacking out. I call it a food blackout, because I would eat everything during this blackout and wake up and the cabinet would be completely empty. And it was horrible, and obviously the guilt followed, and it was a terrible cycle. I continued this really horrible period of my life for probably about a month, and it really got to me. So I suffered from a lot of, I guess it was depression or sadness. I was crying all the time, and one day I had a very pivotal moment, and I was crying on my bed, feeling trapped, feeling disappointed, feeling like I had failed because I was gaining weight from losing control of this disorder. And during that point, I tuned in to messages that were being sent to me from, people always talk about your inner voice. This could be an example of that. So I received 3 major messages all at once, and instead of ignoring them, which everyone does sometimes, I held on to them. And I think that was a very critical point of the start of my recovery. And so the first thought as I was crying, I heard a loud, strong inner voice say for the first time, "You can leave now." And that hadn't been a mental option for me yet, but I held on to that thought for a little bit as I heard it in my head. And then the funny part is, right after that, a mental image of a cheesecake popped into my head. And then a thought followed it saying, "You can have cheesecake again." And then finally another image of myself doing Zumba, because I love to dance, and I wasn't allowed to work out when I was there, popped in my head, and it was like, "You can Zumba again." So these 3 very random thoughts, and I call them messages. They were life-changing messages that I received at the right time, allowed me to change the direction of this disorder. So the next day, I packed my bags. I moved back home to Connecticut, where I'm from. And I really do believe that if I hadn't noticed these thoughts and these images, I would not have left, and I might have spent several more, possibly years, being sick and caught in a toxic industry with a very toxic relationship with food. Of course, modeling was just the beginning of recovery. Leaving modeling was the beginning of recovery, because that was just the environment I was in. But I had a lot of mental work to do as well. So I'm not going to get deep into the recovery path for me, but since recovering, I have really I have studied a few things that have made me honor this idea of receiving messages when you need them. So I've studied neurolinguistic programming, which is taking into consideration your physiology, the language patterns you use, and your beliefs into one for healing. I've studied hypnosis and also been certified in coaching. So I use these tools to amplify the messages that we all receive and creatively work with them towards self-discovery and healing. So when I talk about messages, there are two types of messages that we're giving and receiving as we interact with ourselves, the world, and our disorders. These are conscious messages and unconscious, or some people say subconscious messages. Consciously, we're always aware of what we say, what we do, what we feel, and what we think. On an unconscious level, we're constantly experiencing self-talk. We are seeing mental images. Our physiology is changing. Our body language changes. We're thinking of flashbacks from our past. Even the tone, the speed, and the volume of our voice changes. And we even our hand movements say things about ourselves that we might not pick up on unless we're aware of it. So all of these things add another layer of self-discovery. So I have used these tools to help analyze my relationship with food as it evolved through high school, through recovery, to how my relationship with food is today, and how I would like to have my relationship with food evolve in the future. And like I said, everybody has different relationships with food. A chef might have a relationship that's very pleasurable. A wrestler might be really concerned about, the weight class they're in, and a single mom might be thinking about the best way to feed her family. Everyone has different relationships with food, and they're always changing. For me, I kind of created this little, I guess it's a chart that I filled out to help me really tune into three types of messages to analyze how this has evolved over time. So I've thought about what mental associations and images I have with each stage of my recovery and my relationship with food, specific feelings that happen during those times, and then descriptive words that pop into my head that resonate with me when I think about that period of my life and that period of my life as it pertains to food. So as I mentioned previously when I was talking about kind of the height of my disorder, if I could think of one really descriptive word that pops into my mind immediately, and I want you to be thinking about your previous relationship with food too. I think my relationship was very militant and toxic. It felt like I was being very strict with myself and inflexible. And if I could associate a specific feeling, it was a feeling of obsession, like just constantly preoccupied. And then the interesting part is when I think about symbols to represent this negative relationship with food, I actually think of like a whip cracking, and it kind of speaks to this idea of really painful, strict relationship. And then another symbol that comes to mind, which is very telling, where I had an aha moment, was that I thought of texting, and not normal everyday texting, but the kind where you're really like someone and they don't really they don't text you back, you're obsessing over it, you're wondering if you'll ever hear from them again. And, that's kind of a really negative, almost emotionally abusive pattern to be in with a relationship with a person. And that's how it felt with food for me. So it was interesting how I could humanize my relationship with food and kind of equate it to being a negative, almost romantic negative relationship in a way. I hope everyone's following me as I describe how that originally was for me. Again, everyone's relationship is different. Then as moving forward, during recovery, the word volatile pops into my mind. This was the hardest part of my eating disorder because it was a constant up and down. So when I think of a symbol, I think of waves. I think of a graph where, there are dips in the graph and peaks in the graph because it was very up and down. When I think about what I was specifically feeling during recovery and my relationship with food, I do feel loved, and I actually was happy that was a descriptive word that came to me when I was thinking and doing this exercise, because it made me realize how supported I felt by my therapist and by my mom specifically. And I also had the feeling of nauseousness because that was a time where my eating was out of control and I did feel sick often. So things were evolving during those two periods of my life. Finally, presently, my relationship with food has changed drastically, and I am recovered, and to the point where I actually feel very neutral with food. My relationship with food is very neutral and somewhat detached, but not in a negative way. It's a positive relationship that's very peaceful. I feel like I navigate my eating and my relationship with food with a protective awareness. So I'm aware of how I used to feel when I would overeat. I'm aware of how I used to feel before I would, throw up. I'm aware of those things, and I navigate my world to protect myself from having that happen again. So it's not an emotional journey. It's more of a peaceful journey where it's a victory for me because I have that awareness that I didn't have before. And when I can think of a symbol to represent my current relationship with food, the first thing that popped into my mind was pizza, which is kind of funny. It is my favorite food, so maybe that's why that popped into my head. But it just shows that I'm not so strict anymore. I'm not militant. I'm going to indulge when I want to. It's all about balance and, again, awareness and just eating normally, eating like a happy person who eats what she wants and what she loves. So my relationship is definitely so much more healthy. Would I say if I were to humanize this relationship and turn it into one like I'd had with my negative relationship, this positive relationship with food reminds me of an acquaintance in school. So say we have lockers next to each other and we shared notes sometimes and, we might talk between classes, but we're not best friends. We respect each other, and that's how it is now. And finally, in the future, I'm happy with my current relationship with food, but I am curious of how I would like it to evolve, if at all. And so when I think about my future relationship with food and where I have room to grow and evolve and improve, I actually think of a chef making a delicious, flavorful sauce. So for me, I would love to one day really get deep into the idea of flavors and flavor combinations and being able to have food be almost more of a creative expression that I can revel in. And so that's something where I would feel very confident and powerful. And flavor is the word that just keeps popping into my mind. So there is a place where my relationship with food can go if I would like it to, and maybe I do, because that's what I think of when I think of my future relationship with food. But right now I'm very happy with my present, very peaceful, victorious relationship with food. So that is kind of the evolution of my story, where I have been as these years have passed. I did send Lynn a worksheet. If any of you want to do this exercise, it is a chart. I do love these types of things. If anyone is interested, Lynn will send you this chart, and you can always reach out to me. I can walk you through it, or not, or you can just do it on your own. And I don't know who's here, but if there are any questions, I'd love to answer them. So thank you so much for taking the time to hear my story.
Meg.
Hi.
Thank you this is Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing and for taking us on your journey. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
and how far you've come, and what a change in your relationship with food, you know, and sharing your heart with us and everything and all that kind of stuff. I'm just grateful. I'm really grateful for you. And I'm grateful that you're here.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for you, for inviting me and for this group. It seems like a very strong, powerful, resilient group, which I'm happy to be a part of.
Yeah. Sure is, sure is, absolutely. Yeah, if you ever come out to Los Angeles, we have to meet up. We'll have a party with the alum, and we'll invite you.
Yay!
Sounds good.
I definitely love California. I have my sights on California maybe one day when I'm done with Boston.
Oh, that would be so cool. Yeah, I'd love to connect and have you out here in Cali, in La La Land. I'm not sure if anyone's on the call, but I'm going to open it up for a second. If anyone wants to click in, just say your name in the middle of Meg and I talking. I keep hearing clicks, but I'm not sure what that is. But anyways, I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
And just thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And we'll connect soon. And like Meg says, I have her cool little funky worksheet, so if anyone wants it, please reach out. Meg, have a beautiful day. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Bye. You too.
Bye.